The Black Death by Matteo A Saul U. When the Black Plague started, it took some time for people to recognize that a terrible epidemic was breaking out among them. The frightening name of the Black Death came only several centuries after its visitation and was probably a mistranslation of the Latin word atra, meaning both terrible and black. The epidemic, in fact, began with an attack that the Mongols launched on the Italian merchants' last trading station in the region, Kaffa. European people and many other places were infected by the Black Death, but none had a worse outcome than Europe. The tragedy was extraordinary. In the course of just a few months, 60% of Florence's population died from the plague, and probably the same proportion in Siena. The reason they had the plague worse than other infected places is because they didn't really do anything to stop it. Instead of science and medicine to find a cure, they thought the answer to stop the plague was God. As reasons for them being greedy. Thanks to the little priest, women now had a job that they could do.
They thought God was punishing for them for their bad doings of their life, so they abused themselves, so God would stop the outbreak.
And everybody still went to church even with the plague still going on. Because they thought God started a plague. Because they thought only God could make something so devastating and dangerous. They also thought the Jews poisoned their water. They also started whipping themselves. The plague doctors walked around with flowers near their nose to ward off the evil stretch of the Black Death. People also believed in stopping or purging troublemakers or their communities of heretics. But back then, they didn't know that the rats had caused the plague. The blood of the plague-infected rats contains 500 to 1,000 times more bacteria per unit of measurement than the blood of plague-infected humans. Importantly, plague was spread considerable distances by rat fleas on ships. Infected ship rats would die. The fact that the plague is transmitted by rat fleas means the plague is a disease of the warmer seasons. And the plague is very different from airborne contagious diseases, which are spread directly between people by droplets. These thrive in cold weather. This conspicuous feature consists proof that the Black Death and plague in general is an insect-borne disease. And it's another reason why we think the plague thrived in the warm.
The reason why rats were so good at infecting the plague is because they readily infested clothing of people entering affected houses and ride with them to other houses.
As already noted, the pace of spread slowed strongly during the winter and stopped completely in mountain areas such as the Alps and the northerly parts of Europe. Yet, the Black Death often rapidly established 2 or more fronts and conquered countries by advancing from various quarters. But in order to become an epidemic, the disease must be spread to other rat colonies in the locality and transmitted to inhabitants in the same way. The Black Plague came back a lot of times after the first time we saw the plague, but the worst time the plague has come was 1347. Probably because they didn't use science and medicine, but Christianity instead.
Another characteristic feature of the Black Death and the Black Plague in epidemics in general, both in the past and in the great outbreaks in the early 20th century reflects their bases in rats and rat fleas.
I, Matteo Alvarez,
and I, Saul U,
hope you enjoyed our presentation on the Black Death and we bid you a good day.
And that's our documentary. Drive safely.